It's time for the Chips and Salsa Show.
The only show about Latinos for Latinos. And did we mention Latinos?
It's the Latísima.
Latinos come in all flavors, shapes, and sizes. You don't have to be Latino to enjoy chips and salsa.
People love chips and salsa.
On February 11, 2024, just before 5 p.m., Officer Jonah Hernandez, a husband, a son, a brother, and the father of 2 young boys, was murdered. Officer Hernandez was dispatched to a trespassing call in the 300 block of South Valley. When he arrived, Armando Silva immediately attacked him with a large kitchen knife. For no reason whatsoever, Silva killed Officer Hernandez. A witness saw the unprovoked attack, retrieved a firearm from their vehicle, and confronted the murderer. Silva tried to attack the witness and was shot at least once. Silva later died from his injuries. Silva had a long history of violent crime and mental illness. This is just one more agonizing reminder of the brokenness of the New Mexico criminal justice system. A system that should have protected our community from Silva, but instead allowed him to endanger us all. The loss of Jonah is also a reminder of the dangers officers face every day. On every call, there is a potential for tragedy. Officers must constantly balance those potential threats with split-second decisions about what to do in every circumstance. This is an evil world. There is evil in our beautiful city. As officers, we see it every day. But it takes selfless men and women to stand against that evil.
What is up, everybody? Thank you so much for joining us at the Chips and Salsa Show, New Mexico. Today we have in studio, as always, Alice Lara.
Hello, everybody. Guac on today. So good to be here on this beautiful day in downtown, well, not downtown, but close to downtown Las Cruces, New Mexico for the Chips and Salsa Show, Nuevo Mexico.
Yes, pretty much downtown. And we have our special guest here, Juan Garcia, the president of the Coalition of Conservatives in Action, the CCIA. Juan is the man. He's on the front line dealing with crime, dealing with public policy, with the local city government. I have a lot of respect and honor for this man, and we're going to get his take on everything that's going on. I think the main thing that we all wanted to jump into right away was Officer Hernandez and the tragedy that went down here in the Las Cruces Police Department. If you guys don't know, we opened up the show with the police chief discussing what actually happened. A lot of people were confused with what happened, but he cleared it up very well. And he rightfully put blame on the New Mexico judicial system.
Exactly.
Right, which I think was rightfully done, and we've got to hold people accountable. And for me, I didn't know what was going on. I saw some stuff going on social media. I'm coming back from a business trip in Albuquerque, and at the Los Lunas Bridge, there was a huge flag being draped over the bridge, and there was traffic backed up as far as the eye can see. But nobody was upset because we all understood that it was for Officer Hernandez. And on my trip back down from Albuquerque, there was a motorcade all the way down from up northern New Mexico down to Las Cruces, and at every exit, there was honor being shown for Officer Hernandez. So this is a big deal. He's the first officer to be killed in the line of duty since 1928, since the opening and a foundation of Las Cruces Police Department. Juan, what is your take on this? What are you thinking, man?
It was just a matter of time. Okay. It is very unfortunate that Officer Hernandez lost his life to a criminal, a known criminal, according to what the chief said. He had a long rap sheet. But let's back up for just a second. If he hadn't been, and this is the irony, if the officer had not been a uniformed officer and he would have gotten killed the way he did, people would have said, oh, just another killing, another death. About 2 weeks ago, in the same district, which is Council District 4, or New Mexico District 35, or Senate District 38, there was a killing in front of a residence. One of the ladies spoke at the last council meeting about 2 weeks ago, give or take, and she indicated that she was looking at her front yard, and somebody walked up to this individual, shot him with a shotgun, or rifle, or what have you. This is over there on Van Patten and Armijo, which there's that intersection there. District 4, Council District 4, is saturated with crime. Okay?
Right.
Just in the last couple of weeks, they had the officer shooting, they had this shooting of this individual, and they had that big, large break-in of automobiles, theft of automobiles at the base auto sales. Okay, there's 3. And I could probably list about 4 or 5 others right off the top of my head. But where I started to go with this is so many people are getting to the point that they're like, hey, it's not a big deal, okay? That individual that got killed on Armijo and Van Patten, people probably don't even remember his name, okay? So it is very unfortunate that what happened this weekend with the officer, but, and I have to be careful how I say this because it may not come out correctly, but if he had not been wearing a uniform, we probably would have forgotten his name by now. So this has been going on for how many years? As CCIA, we've been speaking about this, talking about this at the city council for over a year. And before us, who knows, another year, 2 years before that. We have heard, and this is all on our YouTube, you can listen to the councilors themselves. They blame all this crime on poverty. Okay, so I guess only poor people commit crimes, right? They blame it on climate change, global warming. They blame it because crime is going up everywhere. And also have heard, we can't do anything about it. It's not our fault. Those are the counselors, okay? What has been very silent so far has been the representatives, Representative Rubio and Hamlin. We've had numerous break-ins in those districts. Representative Cadena, Senator Cervantes, Senator Souls, and I can go down the list. We have yet to hear any feedback, any comments from any of the state elected officials to date. All right? It's not urgent. Maybe, and I'm not speaking for them, but the appearance is they either don't care, or it's not in their agenda.
I find that quite puzzling, and I want to pick Alice's brain here a little bit because she came from Maricopa County. You just barely got to Las Cruces about over a year ago, right?
Close to 2 years.
Close to 2 years. Okay, so while you were there and you dealt with crime in your area, and if you guys don't know, Maricopa County is what, 4 million people in that county alone?
About 4.5, yeah.
More than New Mexico as a whole, double. Okay, so if there was crime going down in your community, was legislators involved, city councilmen involved? How would they deal with the uptick in crime?
Well, there's a lot of crime, as you can imagine, in that city. And I also, I get the alert still for Phoenix, and I think it's getting worse. I think it's a national phenomena. It's been happening, and CCI has been really good about bringing attention here. One thing that intrigued me when I was trying to listen to the presser today, they had a press conference today, and it seems like so much information was being withheld. And perhaps they have their reasons for it. I don't know. I'm not a police in the police department. But I'm used to a lot more questions, a lot more answers, and I have, many, many questions. And kudos to Juan. We often talk about Juan and the organization CCIA, Coalition of Conservatives in Action here, but they really have been following all of this for a very long time. So they're very knowledgeable about what happens. And so your question was, as far as dealing with it. Well, we have a lot of officers. But I'll tell you, I'll give you just kind of a perfect example. I already started to feel it back when we were living there a few years ago. There would be car accidents, and there weren't enough police officers to respond. So sometimes they say, well, unless somebody's hurt or something, we can't go. They have these, I think they have them here in Las Cruces,
Yes.
Just kind of representatives. They just show up and kind of file
Code
a
enforcement.
report. Code enforcement for insurance and things like that.
Right.
So while maybe you're watching this, and we are very focused, obviously, on Las Cruces, this is something that affects everyone nationwide, and pay attention. And I feel so bad for the family and the tragedy of this, but you're absolutely right. And I'm going to steal this. Someone gave me this, but this person, it appears, was a frequent flyer criminal.
Yes.
And that's where the problem is.
So if we can take what you just said, Alice, and we can quote what the chief said this morning, and I'm quoting, as he was referring to the death of the murder. It's not death, he was murdered, period. Okay. When he spoke about this, and he says, and I quote, "One more agonizing reminder of the brokenness of the New Mexico criminal system. In Doña Ana County, we have 14, and I may be off by 1 or 2, we have 14 state senators / representatives. 14. We have 5 commissioners. We have 7 counselors. That adds up to about 26 elected officials in the government offices. So, this comment should go to those folks, right? and let me continue with what you said, a system that should have protected the community from Silva being the murderer, but instead allowed it to endanger us all. So let's just take what the chief said and let's blow it up. How many people today, yesterday, last week, have been impacted by the lack of action by our elected officials? As I said, we have 26. Let's just stay with that number.
And we should mention, for the benefit of those who aren't familiar with New Mexico, Las Cruces is the second largest city. So Albuquerque, which is known already for its crime, but we're number 2.
And the county has that many representatives, commissioners, and council. So let me just give you a contrast. Approximately, about a year ago, when Matt Walsh came to NMSU,
Yes, about a year ago.
we had representatives from the council, from the commission, from the state, representative from the Senate, write a letter demanding to know why NMSU allowed Matt Walsh, speaker, right? It wasn't
Yeah, world
hurting
famous.
anybody.
How dare they?
World famous.
How dare, right? And they demanded NMSU explain why they had allowed it. So this, I think there were 8 or 9 of them, I can't remember the exact number, signed the letter, penned the letter, and so forth, sent it to NMSU to demand this. When was the last time we had those 26 individuals that I just mentioned? And I probably forgot 1 or 2. I probably missed 1 or 2. Instead of, and one of the things we've suggested numerous times is, why don't you, elected officials, pen a letter, an ad, whatever you want to do, to the governor and say, we demand, okay, that you hold a special legislative session to address crime.
That's a very hard line point, Juan. And let me crystallize that for you. So basically, what we have here is we have one side where the legislators care so greatly about a world famous individual who's basically just telling the world that, hey, if you're going to go transgender, your suicide rate's going to go way up. And they just came out new statistics. Their suicide rate is even higher now. And we just had a transgender individual do a mass shooting at a church.
Right.
Yes.
And we just had that. So Matt Walsh is just trying to help humanity.
Presenting
here.
facts.
Presenting facts and having philosophical discussion publicly to help the community. And they want to get motivated and excited about that. But when it comes to an officer getting killed in the line of duty, crickets.
Well, not only the officer, Zeke, this has been going on for a long time.
Right.
How many people have been killed? How many small businesses? We got Lucy's, we've got the pastry shop, we can just go down the list. 3 malls there on Solano that have been broken into. And we're not talking about $5, break-in. We're talking about hundreds, thousands of dollars. And this money that is being spent on this is coming out of the owners' pockets. And guess what? A lot of those individuals that we met, they're Hispanic. They're the same people that are being, classified as victims. So here's the true Hispanic individuals. Many of them are women. Okay, they're barely making enough money to survive on, but they're doing an honest living. They're not mooching off the state. They're not mooching off the federal government. They're out there trying to earn $1. Do these folks care? And if they do, they got a heck of a way of showing it, right? Because to date, we have written letters. I mean, I can't even think of how many letters to all those individuals that we've talked about. And the response has been 0. Absolutely nada. Why? Because in my opinion, it is not part of their ideological agenda. Last year, there was about 5, 6, 7, I don't remember exactly, bills that were proposed that could have impacted fentanyl, felony possession of a weapon, enhancements of trying to enhance some of the dealings with fentanyl. And the Democrats, and I'm not saying all Democrats are bad, okay, this is not the point. The Democrats, and there was a headline in Las Cruces Sun that said, Democrats continue to block crime bills. This is not gun control bills. These are crime bills. Bills that, if they would have been approved or passed and signed by the governor, could have helped stem some of the crime here in Las Cruces.
Well, and I'm hoping, reminder, this is an election year. So it really surprises me. I mean, I'm waiting. The reactions will be there. They're probably carefully putting their words together so they say everything right the way they want it to come out. I understand that. And the other thing too about New Mexico versus Arizona, there's a very short legislative period right now. It's going to be over in a few days, basically.
I think Thursday.
Right? Yeah. So they're trying to cram everything in there. But it doesn't matter because you're a representative here in New Mexico. You represent the entire state. That's why you were elected to do it. So, I have to be careful with my words too, because with this tragic event, it's going to be exploited when it can be. And this is something that our group, the coalition, Zeke and I are members as well, has been really trying to get in front of the city council, because you really need to work with your local level. And a lot of blame can be thrown around too. But in the end, like we all three of us have said this, you're a citizen of that city or of that whatever state you live in. You need to engage and be active, because these things, this is just the beginning. I feel like this is a starting point. I mean, don't you think there's so much stuff going on, we can't hear about everything.
Well, I
This
think
is gonna be impactful.
it's not a starting point, if I may just say
Well,
so.
no, I'm saying a
It's a
starting
catalyst.
point for all the United States to
Right.
maybe,
I hope it's a
should be-
catalyst
yes, better term.
to get people
Better term.
involved, to get people motivated, to come in and, quote, hold your elected officials accountable. All right? If you can't do the job, if you don't think it's part of your job, if you don't care, if you don't think you can do it, get out. Okay? Get out.
Yeah.
Let's resign and let somebody that can do it or is willing to do it get in there. So let me just touch on this. This last election, I think, was a really good election results. We have 3 new individuals in the council. One of them, Bill Matisse, he's a hardline individual. He's for public safety. He's been talking about public safety during his candidacy, and he still is. He believes in that. We got Cassie McClure. She's young, District 1, also pretty heavy with crime. Let's hope that she does something, okay, or at least doesn't go to the other side. We got the mayor. Let's hope that the mayor also tries to influence some positive change. So, thank God that we have some change. Not a lot of change, but we have some change.
Relevant though.
Okay?
Yes.
Exactly. Because if we would have kept the same individuals in there, you might as well just, because they've been there for, one of them is going, probably is on their second term, if I remember right, and I could be off on this. The previous council Ganda, I think she'd been there 8 years. And crime has increased and has gotten worse in Las Cruces during those 8 years. One of the things that we used to talk about is, this happened in your watch. It's not my fault. I did everything I could. No, you own it. You're elected, you represent your county, your district, you own that, for better or for worse. So, I'm glad it changed. But going forward, this is going to be a telling time, and let's hope that the officer, and I mean this very respectful. I hope his death was not in vain. In vain from the perspective that we just, forget about it, and he becomes just another, quote, he was the first officer to be killed, and that his death actually, reminds the community that this is a problem that we have to fix. We the people, allowed this mess to be created. We elected, maybe not me, maybe not you, obviously, but we allowed individuals like the council that we have today, or last year, our representatives, we elected those folks. And they don't seem to be too interested in public safety.
Yeah, that's let me go over a couple things, because the larger 3,000-foot view is that the plan is to have us lose confidence in our local government, and I am pro law enforcement, but the issue with pushing for more law enforcement is that we can get into an authoritarian state. It happened in Canada with the truckers. They shipped in a bunch of UN law enforcement guys to arrest those guys and to jail them just for protesting. So it's not like we can just beg for more police officers. We have to hold people accountable here. And with that being said, I want to make sure that I want to push the audience at least to think about this, that it's not just, I don't want to be just throwing Democrats under the bus, because for me, inaction is a form of enabling, and the Republican Party just has not been there in New Mexico at all. We need people to run for office, and we have talented people in the state. And if you want to run for office and get in the legislature, let me know. Reach out to me directly. I have a plethora of different consulting companies that win nationwide that we can get you in office. But we need stronger people in office because we're the last line of defense here, guys. The law enforcement guys, thank God there's still some good men involved, because eventually what's going to happen is why would you be a police officer if they're not going to back you up? If the laws aren't there in your favor, you're just going to end up getting killed, you know. So we're going to eventually lose good men, good women in the police force if we don't start getting involved. And we got to look at things more in good versus evil rather than blue versus red, because that's where it is, guys. The Republican Party, we know nationwide, has not been there in a lot of ways, especially here in New Mexico. And that's not to say the Democrats are off the hook either. We just talked about that. They care more about Matt Walsh than they do about crime in their local communities. So that's what I wanted to highlight there, guys.
And I'm glad you did that, Z, because CCIA, we're not a Republican organization, we're not a Democrat, we're not an independent, we're nonpartisan. We focus on the issues. So to me, whether you're a Democrat or Republican, it doesn't make any difference. Quite frankly, I could care less. Get in there, do the job, take care of your people, do what you promised you were going to do. Public safety, which should be paramount. Okay? I mean, what else is there? If you're not safe in your home, you're not safe in here, you're not safe in your vehicle, then what are you going to do? It's like those ladies that spoke at the council. One of them indicated that she can't sit outside her front porch, you know, in the afternoons or during the day because she's afraid. She doesn't know when she's going to get shot at, when something's going to happen. So forget the party, and that's why CCAA is it's different in the organization, in the community, because we don't particularly care what color you are. Are you doing the job to protect the citizens? And if you are, we'll give you a thumbs up. And if you're not, then we'll call you up.
You've been very powerful in that respect. And I'm so glad you mentioned, you know, the fact that this is the first time it's ever happened. The police force in Las Cruces is almost 100 years old, 1928. And, you know, growing up here, it was 40,000 people when I was growing up here. It was a whole different, and there is a big fear. And that doesn't make for a good community. It really doesn't. So this is so powerful, this event that happened. Even something simple like, you know, the question that I have too, and someone I think did ask it in the press conference, he was by himself. You know, the ideal thing is to have two officers that get to respond, and they drive around in the police car. You know, growing up, that's what we always saw. They were always in pairs. Well, obviously, we don't have that. This gentleman, Officer Hernandez, came from El Paso. He'd only been on the force a couple of years.
About 2 years.
Right,
yeah.
2 years.
Yeah.
In fact, he said, this was my last academy that I did. That's what he graduated from. And as you said, Zeke, you know, how are you going to recruit more people? I mean, you need that. It's very bothersome.
Well, let's take what you just said too, Ellis. So we have a police officer. He would have had 2 years, if I remember correctly from the chief. He would have had 2 years this summer from graduating the academy. I mean, the individual's he's got a weapon, he's got a taser, he's got probably a baton, and I'm not sure what other, you know, defensive and offensive equipment he may have. And he got surprised, at least that's what the chief said, that apparently the murderer surprised when he attacked the officer. Okay, now I'm reading into this because he didn't say it, but the question now becomes, here's an individual that's trained, armed, and so forth, and he was surprised, basically. He was killed. So what happens if you have a 45, 50-year-old woman walking down the street? Excuse me, like happened over by Tractor Supply about, I think it was last summer, that some vagrant came up to her and just beat the daylights out of her, broad daylight. So when people say they don't feel safe, this is just a classic example. A police officer killed, and here you are as a citizen, unarmed,
Not trained for that.
not trained, 90 pounds, texting on your phone, whatever. So how can you feel safe in this community? And right not too far from where we're at that Walgreens, about a block away, that's a big haven for criminal activity, unless it's changed.
This whole area that we've talked about before, you know, growing up here, and probably when you lived here too, Juan, this was like really a nice area. It was up and coming and nice, and not anymore. When I moved back, I'm like, wow. Now I think they're supposed to, didn't they have funds, they're going to try to rebuild or do something. They're talking about it. But that's not going to happen overnight.
It's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen
And
overnight.
do you think that's part of the revitalization, I think, of the El Paseo? Do you think some people are going to move to the empty buildings that are right, west of where we're at, with the crime that's in this community?
Yeah, who would?
Well, for me, seeing this officer being killed in the line of duty since 1928, we haven't had it. When I was growing up, the police department was always known as a very prestigious police department. They were nationally recognized for the use of force model. They used their weapon against homeless people and against criminals the least amount. And we had the least amount of crime for a border city. That's huge, right?
Sure.
And so I just, look, man, we all see what's going on in this state with the border and everything. Like, I was just in Albuquerque the other day, and Central was rough. I was there a couple months ago, and they just did a crime sweep right when Newsom was going to California. So they did a crime
Interesting timing.
Central was beautiful. I commented on it, had a big post on Facebook. Everybody went crazy, like, oh, Central's crazy. But I went back the other day, and Central was crazy, guys. I mean, it is a whole other level that I've never even thought I would experience in my own freaking state. And I used to live off Central Station at Kirtland Air Force Base, so I'm very familiar with the war zone. It was a totally different country to me. Homeless people everywhere. People passed out on drugs everywhere. Prostitutes everywhere. And then you come down here to Las Cruces, El Paseo is basically unrecognizable. And what we can't do is let them normalize this, guys. That's what they want us to do. They want us to normalize this, and we can't let that happen because this is the cops that are on our side are our last line of defense about what's about to happen to us. So I don't think Officer Hernandez is going to die in vain. I saw more people coming together yesterday on the highway than I've ever really seen in New Mexico. It was a beautiful thing to see, and we need to just use that energy to call out legislators, to call people to run for office, call out both parties, and focus on the fact that this is good versus evil. This is no longer a red versus blue game anymore. This is humanity on the line right now.
Well, even the chief mentioned evil.
Right.
I mean,
Yes,
he
he
says
did.
there's evil in the city. Now, some of our progressive friends, they probably don't believe in evil. However, it's here. Okay? Why would this individual, Mr. Silva there, the murderer, why would he just take a kitchen knife, and now I don't know how he killed the officer, but however he did it, right? So, what prompted him to do that?
There's a lot of unanswered questions, and also obviously the officer, you have your body armor and different things that you wear, and the other part of this, in case you haven't the whole story, I'll call them the hero, but the one that went in and actually saved him, and the suspect was killed. That sounds funny, but was killed, and then also went and used the officer's radio to call in.
Well, the individual that spotted this, at least this is public reporting, right? We don't have the insights like anybody, like others may have.
I'd love to know that.
Yeah, the individual, he saw what was happening. He went in to assist the police officer. The criminal, the murderer, came after him. He went to his vehicle, this is what the chief said today, retrieved assuming concealed carry gun that he had in his vehicle, and shot the perpetrator. Self-defense. Okay.
And to me, he's a hero.
Absolutely. Now, if we stop for a second, during the last legislation and this legislation, these same individuals that refused to get involved against crime are the same individuals that were trying to disarm lawful gun
Excellent point.
owners.
Excellent point.
Okay. Don't worry about the criminal. Criminal's okay. But if you lawfully carry a gun, if you have a concealed permit, we're going after you. And we don't want you to own a weapon legally, lawfully. You can own it. You can
Just
steal
don't
it.
use it.
That's
Don't
right.
carry it and don't use it. And imagine if he had not been there,
Exactly.
what other awful atrocities could have happened? How many other people could have been hurt, injured, killed? I mean,
Well, the transgender shooter, she. They don't even know if it's a he, she yet. It's not even out. But they got stopped by people who had guns
Yes,
at the church.
at the church.
And time again, we see good citizens, good Samaritans with weapons who know how to use them, stopping mass shooters from killing a mass of people. So we know that guns are effective. The Second Amendment's amazing. And yet here our local government in New Mexico wants to take our Second Amendment away from us while this is happening.
Starting with the governor.
Starting with the governor, and it trickles down. And it's not, I hate saying it like that because it makes her seem like she's so smart and she's so intellectual. She's taking orders from California, from Oregon, and Washington. They're doing the same game plan that they're doing over there with all their
It's our testing ground here.
Horrible crime. The California is a joke now. It's a freaking joke. Same thing with Seattle. I see a post on Instagram Seattle's a shithole. It's a page on Instagram. It is disgusting. It is hell on earth. These people are zombies dying on the streets by the hundreds, and we're letting that happen to our fellow brothers and sisters. It's disgusting.
All these beautiful cities, and I was just listening to an interview. They were interviewing Tucker, who was talking about these world-class cities, which we had, I should say. In our own country, but because of the lack of law enforcement, serious laws, they're changing. Just as you said, Albuquerque used to be awesome. Well, I almost moved there instead of Phoenix, and I wouldn't even think about living there now, unfortunately.
So if you read the Albuquerque Journal, and I try to read it most every day, the one thing that's consistent daily is a shooting, a killing, a shooting, a killing, almost every single day.
Wow.
And let's talk about Washington, since you brought it up for a second. I lived in Bremerton back in 2008, I think it was, for about a year and a half, 2 years. Beautiful country down right there by the Sound.
I'm not familiar with that area.
It is gorgeous. I mean, it's green, there's water, very peaceful. And I was reading about it this month back before I came down here. But one of the Mexican cartels, I can't remember which one it was, has established themselves, and I think it's called Peach Orchard, where they have established the cartel there, and they're selling drugs, they're committing crimes, and this is like a small town. I can't remember the name, but it's in the Bremerton area. So it's infiltrating this whole community. One thing I want to cover, if you guys don't mind. So we have a group, an action committee in CCIA that is called Crime and Public Policy. Excuse me. And the action committee lead is Julia Brace. She's gathering some steam, gathering some momentum, trying to get people involved so that they can understand what's happening, so that they can be educated in what's going on and challenge what's happening. Because one of the things that we have here in this community is a lot of ignorance. People just don't know, don't care. So one of the things that we're trying to do is, and Julia's doing a great job of this, along with Sarah and some of the others, is getting people involved so that they learn what's happening, understand what's happening. Go to the council, go to the commission, speak to the legislators, and bring awareness to what's happening. Because we are a community advocacy organization.
And Julia's doing a great job, and I just want to mention too, of course, it's always encouraged to actually attend these meetings, but now you can go online, you can watch them. If you miss them, go back and watch them again. And you can get information, because people are busy, they can't always be there at 1 o'clock on, in the afternoon. It's interesting, kind of nice maybe if they had them after hours, but that's another matter. But there's ways now with technology. You can stay informed instead of being stuck here as what Rush Limbaugh used to say, a low information voter. You don't have to do that anymore. So thank you, Julia Reese, for doing that.
And we meet every Thursday, Kitchen Craft, 6 o'clock. We have our weekly meetings. You can come and join us. You can support us from as simply as attending, talking to your fellow citizens, sharing the word, what's going on, get involved, write, participate. Support, clap, whatever you need to do, or speak, or write during some of those meetings.
Here's what I think. I mean, we all see what's going on with the crime. It's just you gotta be blind not to see it. It's getting normalized to a certain degree, but what it should be doing is it should be making people angry, it should be making people upset, and it should be making people worried about the future of their children, about the future of their own self-interest. You're not going to be able to do anything that you do normally anymore if we keep letting this crime get out of control. If you don't get involved with city government, the pattern is that things are going to get so bad, people are going to just start dying willy-nilly in the street, and that's already started. We just talked about that.
That's right.
So if you don't get involved now, and you don't get angry and upset about this and start doing the right thing, the peaceful thing with CCIA, with Juan and other people in the community, then you're going to be a victim too, and then it's too late by then. So I'm someone that took initiative and got involved with good people like this and learned the system, and I'm still giving back as much as I can. Now it's time for you guys to get upset and get worried and do something about it.
Absolutely, and there's a line that somebody was talking about illegal immigration, but it's pertinent to this. It's all relative, until it's your relative. till it personally happens. A lot of people don't really think about it, but in my community, this happens. So you know what? It is affecting us. It is, and it's out there in your community too. Maybe you don't know about it, but be aware if you can.
Well, one of the things, Alice, and a lot of people like to gloss over this, we're not anti-illegal immigrants. My parents migrated here. I did. I was 5 years old, I think. But we did it the legal way, okay? It took time. It took effort for my parents to come to this country, but they did. And we were as poor, and I think I've spoken about this before, we were very poor.
You mean you didn't get like a $1,000 check automatically to help you?
That's what
Like it's happening now?
Yeah, but you know what? My dad worked hard. He worked his way up until he became a middle class individual, and they did it. So all this illegal activity by busting across the border it's
ridiculous. I mean, the polls just came out recently. Like Trump has over 50% of the Hispanic Latino vote right now, and even in Southern Texas, he's creeping up on past 50% too. Because people like us, my parents came. My grandfather came over with the Braceros, all right? So immigration is part of my family as well.
Sure.
We're pecan farmers, strawberry farmers, picking cotton, the whole thing. We see these immigrants coming over. They didn't earn a damn thing. They're coming over here getting all this money, free college, mortgages, banks, when we had to do all this work. So the Hispanics are pissed off, and we don't want anything to do with it.
You're absolutely right. And all of us have that. My grandpa, too. From Santa Rosalia, Mexico, never walked here at night.
Damn.
And that's we have great stories, all of us, in our families.
Right.
And you are so right. And it breaks my heart, and it's not fair. It's a slap in the face to everybody who is trying to follow the law and do it right. It's not America. I coined this, and did I tell you about this already? I don't know if I did or not. But it seems like a very far left part of our society. You could say Democrats, but you know what? There's a lot of conservative Democrats here in the state of New Mexico and other places. But, we have the MAGA, right? MAGA is Make America Great Again. Well, somebody said something, and I came up with it, that maybe the far left wants to be your pal, okay? Putting America last. Because it seems like we're doing that.
I like
it
that.
seems like that is happening.
Yeah.
Illegal immigrants or criminals, sometimes it seems like they have more rights than here's a poor, hardworking American trying to do your best, trying to,
Well, we just talked about it.
duty and law.
Remember we just talked about the small business owners. They get broken into.
Yeah.
I mean, they're doing their best to earn a dollar honestly.
Staying within the law,
Staying within the law.
paying their taxes.
There's mayors and senators nationwide right now outwardly saying that the immigrants are coming in, there's no more after-school programs, there's no more you kids going to school, you can do online education because we got to make room for the immigrants. No more veterans programs, we're going to save that money for the immigrants. They're outwardly saying it. And so,
Chicago.
Chicago. So, I mean, the absurdity of what these people's policies is, they have to be bold because they're so crazy. So they got to be bold in what they're doing, but if you just take a second and listen to what they're trying to do, they're trying to replace us, get rid of us, the people who earned their citizenship, whether they got naturalized or people like us who came with immigration. They're getting rid of us, and they're bringing these people in who didn't earn a damn thing. And another thing I recently learned, that a lot of these immigrants, they came up here, they were promised freaking everything, and they're not getting. We don't have enough money. We can't sustain this. They got homeless people with big screen TVs downtown Austin right now watching the Super Bowl. That's not sustainable. We can't keep paying for that. So a lot of these immigrants are going back. They're going back to Venezuela. They're going back to and Venezuela is horrible. And so if they're going back over there, at least they got family and infrastructure there. They come up here to America. Nobody wants them here. We're running out of money to give them. They're going back. So this is just topsy-turvy, crazy land right now, guys.
It's criminal what this is doing to our American culture, because you just talked about it, and the pride, the American dream, within the Latino culture, Mexican culture, probably all Latino cultures. What is it? Hard work. Nobody owes you anything. You do what you got to do, make your own way, and do the best you can, and be a good person of faith or whatever. And we're losing that. It's starting to, and once we lose that, and our freedom's gone.
The term melting pot was used almost every day.
Right.
Figuratively, of course.
I remember that.
When was the last time you heard melting pot?
Well, in
It's
elementary
not
school.
allowed anymore. It's not in
school.
the dictionary of
Long time
political
ago.
correctness.
Everybody's got their own group, right? I mean, it's crazy.
No, it's true.
Well, I mean, here's the thing, too, guys, is there's signs of things getting better. People are coming together. People are waking up, and especially with Officer Hernandez, I think it's a lot of what I felt from all the law enforcement. Because it wasn't just law enforcement; it was the fire department, it was the ambulances. They were all getting involved. I think they all see what's going on. There's crime is going up and nothing's being done. And when they see Officer Hernandez get taken out of line of duty, they look at themselves like, man, this is just the beginning. It's going to keep getting worse. We have to highlight this officer's death so we can help ourselves, help our communities, because nothing else is being done. That's the feeling I got from it. I don't know.
Well, what's to say Las Cruces will not be another Albuquerque in another 3 or 4 years?
We're kind of headed that direction, you know, and if it weren't for groups like you and, you know, hopefully our show is doing that. There is hope because, you know, even I've only lived back here in May, it'll be 2 years. The community vibe is still very good. There's a lot of wonderful, good people here, but we have to get rid of this element of fear of becoming engaged. This is our community. This is our country. Don't let the wrong ideas take it over. We can't let that happen. And on that same thing, if we're almost done, we need to shift to our other...
Jack of Hearts, huh?
Yeah, we need to shift to our other topic. But I really appreciate you coming in today. You know, Juan, we reference you a lot. We talk about your organization a lot. And Juan's been hanging there. For those of you who don't know also, too, we salute you because this is a former Marine, because you're always a Marine, right? And he does a really great job with the organization, have a really good leadership team.
Yeah, Juan's basically a freaking general in the streets, guys. I mean, there's no one else in New Mexico that I know of that's fighting hard for freedom and for human rights and just for outright Americanism than this gentleman right here. And it's an honor to know him and to work with him and just to keep, you know, boosting that organization, because if we just had more men like Juan involved in Albuquerque and throughout the state, this state would turn around real quick. Something tells me that there's going to be a lot more of us popping up here very soon.
I love that.
And again, guys, thank you for the kudos. I appreciate it. But I have a hell of a good team. Right. Not just a great leadership team, but all our members. They're very focused, they're very committed, and people that really care. So thank you for that.
Yes,
Absolutely.
I encourage you. I know he just mentioned the meeting, but Thursday, 6 p.m. at Kitchen Craft. It's right next to the Rudy's Barbecue. Even if you live in the El Paso area, surrounding area, El Paso's 45 minutes from here. You will not be disappointed. Come and meet these wonderful people, and you have great speakers. It's worth the trip. It really is. So we'd like to shift it now. Anything else before we leave this
Yeah, just
topic?
one real quick note. It's like, if you want to be entertained, go to city council and speak your mind. You know, that's one of the most entertaining things I've ever done. And really what it boils down to is the collective conscious. I was talking about this earlier on my show, the Zeke Rodriguez show, is that the collective conscious, when we all bring our minds together and our spirits together and we focus that energy, things happen, all right? We've seen the studies of group meditation, group prayer. You can lessen crime when people come together. And Juan is spearheading that, bringing people together peacefully with a righteous message, and it's effective. People know who this man is. People know what his message is. Well, our message is as a community. So if you want to have some entertainment, go to city council and speak your mind, speak your truth. If you're dealing with crime in your community, talk about it. Talk to Juan, talk to Julia Ruiz. And that's it. I'll end on that because I think that's important.
And that's perfect because it's your city council. It's ours. We, the people, at every level of government. And also speaking of we the people, why don't, before we do that, just give a quick commercial about our Flavors of the Desert for our wonderful Oregon Mountain
Flavors
Productions
of the Desert, hooking the local restaurants up with some publicity and some marketing. You know, you can't knock them for that because that's what we need. We need a culture. Food is our culture, guys. With our food, we don't have really community. It expresses who we are as a people. And I really give our studio here a big shout out for doing this for the community. Thank you guys so much. If you guys are checking us out, you want to get involved, hit us up. We'll get you right in touch with them, get you in the magazine, get you guys shot out for sure.
That's right. Or if you want to do something like this show too, Joey and Haley Garza, they do a wonderful job here at Oregon Mountain Productions, and we appreciate it. We're getting a lot of great comments, you know, with this professional landscape that we have now. So now let's switch to, we almost mentioned this, we mentioned this a lot on the show. We try to keep you guys updated because it is a national problem about education in our public schools. Unfortunately, it's a big problem. And we had our update that just happened last week that we talked about. I think I'm just going to toss it to Juan because Juan Garcia and Sarah Smith, they have been the instigators with this topic about what is in your public schools. And just before I toss it to you, I want to give a special message. If you do have kids in the public schools, take a few minutes and call your library and see, you know, maybe what kind of books they have in there. Maybe they're not carrying Huckleberry Finn anymore or Tom Sawyer, wonderful books that I grew up on and loved. But they may have some things in there that you may not be happy with. Just stay engaged, as Zeke always messages. So I'm going to toss it to you, maybe tell the quick story and a little update of what's going on.
So back in August of last year, we filed a complaint. Actually, Sarah filed a complaint on the book excuse me, Jack of Hearts and Other Parts. This book was identified back in April of last year, and I spoke about it at the school board. I had it in front of me and put it up and so forth. I read a couple of the excerpts. A lot of the folks thought we were anti-transgender, anti-gay, what have you. But if you read the book, it's not a casual, I fell in love or those kind of things. It's actually deep, sexual, and it's not the educational type.
It's not clinical.
It's not clinical, thank you. It is graphic. It talks about pedophilia, talks about drugs, it talks about doing whatever. One of their comments is, we want you to become a good slut. Okay, so it's in the book. So, and if you go to our website, you can see all the videos that we've done. So, fast forward, we filed a complaint with the school district. We followed the policy. We said, okay, we'll do it. We went through it. They had a book review committee. They evaluated the book. By, I think it was 6-1, they voted to retain it. It took them about this long to decide. We're like, what the heck? I mean, we've read comments, excerpts, we've shown the book numerous times. Any reasonable person would say this is not age appropriate. So let me stop myself here. We're not talking about banning books. We're not talking about 18-year-olds. We're talking about 12, 13, 14-year-old kids. Is this book age appropriate in the school library? We're not talking about, and I use the phone as a prop for the book. We're not talking about the public library. We're talking about the school library. And now we're investing taxpayer dollars to buy this material. We're 50 in the nation, 49, 52, 51. I don't know. We fluctuate somewhere in the bottom of the country as far as education, but yet we have money to buy for these books. Anyway, so we did an IPRA. We did a public records request, Sarah and I, and we discovered that there was a very strong bias against us by calling us banners, B-A-N-N-E-R-S. And then another school board member, Mr. Patrick Nolan, he was bragging about stacking the committee. So when we found that information, I would say, wait a minute, you can't do that. You're a public official, you're an elected official. Whether you like me or not is beside the point. I have a name, okay? If you don't want to call me by my name, call me Mr. Citizen, something. But don't call us book banners, because we've never spoken or advocated for banning books. What we were talking about is making sure that this book is in an appropriate place in the school library, whether it be underneath the desk at the librarian's desk and a shelf somewhere. That's what we're talking about. So in between that, we got called fascist, the usual words, fascist, meddlers, Nazis, the whole stuff, which doesn't really bother me. And as it turns out to be, Mr. Patrick Nolan bragged about stacking the book. So what they did is they say, Zeke, you're one of my friends, right? I know you're going to do what, you're aligned with us. So would you like to be on the review committee? How about you, Alice? You're one of us too, right? So, and I'm simplifying this. But what they did is they collected a large number of individuals that were either, they knew each other, they knew of each other, so that when they put the names in the fishbowl, grab the names, guess what? Everybody's a goldfish. So what are you going to have? All right? So six of those 7 individuals were all like-minded. So what are you going to vote? There was no objectivity in this. So we challenged this over and over and over and over. And it took us until this last, I think, 1 or 2 weeks ago, when the school district finally admitted, we have a problem with the regulations. One regulation that we used was supposed to be for books in the curriculum, and one is supposed to be for books in the library. They got them crossed. Okay, we used the wrong form. We used what they gave us. Number one. Number two, Board President Tenorio, if you listen to her comments, she had identified a potential issue when she did the KRWG interview. She said, and I'm paraphrasing, where she seemed that something just didn't seem right. Well, why not stop? We have spent literally hundreds of hours, each of us, Sarah and myself, research, practicing, speaking, and so forth. They could have said, you know what, let's do a timeout. We have a problem. let's relook at our policies, regulations, and then try again. No, we went all the way through. We appealed their decision because what happened is the book review committee made a decision, the superintendent made a decision, and then the board made a decision. So we appealed all the way up. And then at this last meeting, we finally got two of the board members, Mr. Wolford and Mr. Nolan, to recuse themselves. And all along, they knew that they had been cheating. So finally, and let me give a shout out to the Bulletin. The Sun, K-Fox, KVIA, they all did stories on this. And they were, excuse me, they will leave out the stacking, they will leave the recusal
Very
out.
superficial.
Very
Right.
superficial, very touchy-feely, until the Bulletin finally came in and did a very detailed review. Where are we today? The board said that if we wanted to appeal again, we could. They're going to read to the policy and procedures. I think they had like 10 days to do it, 14 days. So we'll see what happens next. But there's more books. Okay. LCPS has a systemic problem with this type of material in the school libraries. They do. There's in one of the other books we identified, I'm not going to give the name, is guess what? It's in middle school.
Oh, it's even worse. This was at least high school, but middle school. Wow. So you have all that
So
in process?
We're working on that.
Yeah, there's so many things wrong with that. I mean, for me, I get frustrated when I hear about all the bureaucratic red tape that you guys have had to go through to simply just talk about a porno book that incites pedophilia, which is illegal. It incites promiscuity, which these kids aren't even old enough to vote. They're not old enough to drink. Why are you forcing them to destroy their bodies like that?
See, you said a word earlier, and you used the word normalization.
Right, yeah.
What they are trying to do is they're trying to normalize pedophilia.
Right.
They're trying to normalize illicit sex with adults, casual sex. And I spoke on this. It's on public record. I said, what you're promoting is part of the problem that happened in the 80s when we had the big AIDS epidemic. Everything in that book
Right.
points for this type of behavior. Okay?
Well,
And they didn't listen.
guaranteed there's a systemic problem with pedophilia in the Las Cruces public school system. We've had administrators get busted with hardcore child abuse. Hardcore. I mean, putting it on Twitter, talking about how the kids learn fast while they're having sex with a child. I mean, it doesn't get any more hardcore than that. That's right here in our local city. And now you couple that with these books that's encouraging that type of behavior for children to have sex with adults, with administrators, with coaches. So I'd be willing to bet there was some kind of investigation, which there probably won't be. There's some pretty bad people in Las Cruces public school system right now, and it's nationwide. They're doing this all over the country. I know El Paso's big on the Jack of Hearts book as well. El Paso's going through a big battle with them over there. I don't know how much success they've had, but it's a big deal to them as well too.
So we put up a billboard. I don't know if you can see it or not. But
Right.
the billboard that we had,
Thank
we
you.
pay for our own
Powerful.
pockets. It says LCPS decided, based on their letter, decided pedophilia is, quote, age appropriate in high school library. Do you agree? So what we did is we took that letter that the superintendent published supporting the book, with the retention of the book in the school library, and we created a billboard.
And look at our president. Look at President Biden, the way he behaves around children. I mean, it's gaffe after gaffe, horrible thing after horrible thing. He was just nibbling on a kid like last week. Little baby girl just nibbling on her. What the hell's going on? Why would you let your kid around this man? But you got this guy's behavior, and you got a nationwide book getting thrown around out here. It's like these people have an agenda, and we can't let it happen, guys. The children are everything.
If I can just add, it's tough. And I can guarantee you that this district would have preferred us to quit after the first time, after we lost.
They don't quit, though. That's their
Okay.
thing.
But no, Sarah and I, we discussed this, and we're not going to quit until we get what's right. We're not trying to become, turn this into a totally different environment. All we're asking is this age appropriate?
And you're doing such a service to the community, because when all of this started, a big question in my mind was, I think I even called, I never got a response from the school, but did they let the parents know about what this was happening? When we would go to the meetings, it was mostly our group that was there. Another thing I want to mention too is the story. The bulletin, Las Cruces Bulletin, did a really good job, like you say, very thorough story. So I happened to find it on their site on Facebook, and normally they don't get a lot of engagement, I'll say commentary, but 95% of the comments that were on there were saying, oh, these guys, they don't have kids, and they're book banners and all that. So I let the team know so you guys could at least respond. And that's the problem, the low information or no information person. Because when we would do political walking, like in Julia's campaign, and we would tell the parents, most of them had no idea. And probably a lot of them, now I think they're getting to know it.
Well, here's the thing, Alice, that the books were approved by the ALA, American Library Association. Okay, their standards are, their young adults start at 12, I think it's 12 to 20.
Young adults start at 12?
12, yes.
Wow.
Look at their website, it's not making this up. Look at their Bill of Rights. So from their perspective, when we met with the librarian from Mayfield High School, he was like, why are you guys complaining? She didn't use those words, but she was like, what's the big deal here? Okay, very casual about it. So, I like that word, normalization. You're trying to normalize this type of behavior. We spoke to a bus driver from the school district, who she told me actually, that they've got young girls, 10 years old, practicing their oral skills in the back of the bus.
Wow.
Okay, cameras rolling.
Wow.
That's right, they have cameras in the buses.
Unbelievable.
These are 10-year-old girls, and it could be boys too. I mean, I don't know, but
Wow.
I mean, this is how. And if you think back, and if you read that book, they talk about being a good slut, okay? And to me, their idea is they want our young kids, 10, 9, 8, God, who knows, to become good sluts when they grow up. By the time they grow up, I mean, they're like ready to go.
It's a sanctioning. I mean, if I went in there into the public school library and I had a stack of Playboy, Hustlers, whatever those magazines, do you even still have Hustler? I don't know. I don't think they'd accept that donation.
It's a direct attack on the nuclear family. I read a lot, and a statistic I came across recently was, sorry girls, this is going to piss off a lot of girls here, but
We haven't pissed anybody off yet, so come on.
Well, it pisses them off online whenever
It's
I bring up
time.
the statistic, I'll tell you that. But it's the truth. It's been scientifically proven. And once you have sex with more than 6 men, you have a hard time pair bonding. You have an 80% chance of divorcing your husband after 6 partners, and it goes up radically from there. The best is within 1 to 2 partners. Your chances of divorce go down significantly if you stay within that 3-partner range. So what they're doing here is promoting these girls to basically boost their body count when they're not even adults yet. And by the time they get into a relationship, they can't pair bond, because what it is women can't pair bond because they release higher amounts of dopamine and oxytocin during sex than men do, so they become more emotionally attached. So you basically fry out your receptors. It's like a drug. If you have sex with too many men, you can't pair bond, you can't stay married, you're more incentivized to cheat and get divorced. So this is another attack on the nuclear family is the way I see it.
The biggest thing is, it's the kids.
Yeah.
If you're 18 and you want to do what Zeke just said, God bless you, whatever.
That's fine.
Okay. But when you start impacting 10-year-olds, 12-year-olds, or maybe younger, boys or girls, something's not right.
No, not right at all. It's actually evil and horrible, and I'm flabbergasted by how normalized it already is, guys. I love the fact that Juan and Sarah out here, we're talking about it right now. I love these people. Freaking have so much respect. But man, the masses are just not on board with this stuff. They don't really care, and it's like, dude, this is bad. This is really bad.
So let me just add real quick before we. That is, excuse me. That is probably why Mr. Nolan stacked the committee, because I think, this is my opinion, that if he was to go to any 10 individuals walking on the street, sitting here, eating coffee, drinking coffee, they probably would have voted to.
Yeah, show them the book, and they're like, whoa,
Exactly.
Yeah.
So he got his friends, his colleagues, people that think like him, and then they pretend like the community accepts it. But I don't think they will.
Yeah, and go on attack for you. I mean, they're trying to take the role of the parent. They have a role. It's educating with some good standards, and they're deviating from
they're
their
not even
role,
doing
for
that.
sure.
They're not even
Exactly.
educating these kids. They're
And
just
that's
still
right.
much smut,
But
It's-
a lot of attention on that. The other
Right.
question, and maybe you know this, Juan, but one of the things, the last school board meeting that I attended, they have an attorney or advisor, or whatever you call. So this policy, and clearly when you read the policies, you knew that that was the wrong policy they were following. The attorney would seem to me would have an obligation to advise them or guide them. Had a lot to say at that meeting, but that was really never addressed.
Why the attorney showed up at the last meeting, I don't know. The attorney is supposed to represent the school district, doesn't represent us, represents the district. And she sits there at every meeting. Why she brought it up at the last meeting and not the meeting prior to, I don't know.
I think it was CYA. But it was, to me, it was too late because the way that I took it was, you're the attorney. When they started doing this whole process with you and Sarah, I'm not an attorney. Okay, I'll play one here on the podcast just for fun. But I would say, I think you guys are you need to do this and not that. And did the attorney provide the incorrect form? I don't remember if they said that.
No, the school has
It was
this
the
form.
school.
Now, keep in mind, I think those policies were from 2010. Don't quote me on that.
I think it was 2010.
Something like that.
They were older.
So, because why? It hasn't been used because people haven't challenged any books. The parents just sit at home, fat, dumb, and happy, saying, "Oh, my kid's doing okay." But if you don't take the time to check what's in the library, you'll never know.
Yeah, I want the federal government out of our. As soon as the federal government, I talked about this before. As soon as the federal government got involved with the public school systems nationally, with all the states, our scores plummeted. We used to be leading in the world with STEM programs and everything else. I mean, the kids were trained how to use their guns in gym class, And as soon as the federal government got involved, the scores have been plummeting, and we're the worst educated state in the country. Plus, we have all this smut going on. It's like these poor children, man, they're just getting hammered, It's sad. When I got out of the public school system, I was way off. I was way behind. I went and served the military, got out, and I took some tests at the community college, and they were like, "Bro, you're like at a 6th grade math level, dude." You know what I mean? Like, I was way off. So I had to pay for a ton of remedial education just to get on board. Now I'm highly educated, but I can't imagine any other kid who didn't have the GI Bill, who didn't really have any motivation to get educated. They're running around here on a 6th grade reading level. Poor things, How much can you learn about life if you can't even read past 6th grade? It's just sad to me.
Let me just add one thing real quick. We're not about book banning. Okay, I want to be clear.
Right.
We're not book banning, okay?
For the 10th time.
For the 20th time, right? Okay. All we want to do is have the option to have age-appropriate material in the school libraries. That's it. We're not here at Brannigan, burning books or anything else. We're not doing any crazy stuff. We're not anti-trans. We're not anti-LGBT. We're not anti-anybody. Just take care of your kids.
I'm anti-sexualizing children. I'll say that. I'm anti-sexualizing children. Straight up. I don't want that. I don't want my kids around anything near that stuff.
You're pro-education. You're pro-parental rights, as far as I can see.
Yeah.
And if you want to go to the YouTube channel, there's a CCIA YouTube channel, and you can find all the videos there. Take a look at yourself. Don't believe us, and you will see from city council to the school board, and you can get a lot just watching for a few minutes. You can get a lot of information from there. I know we got to wrap it up. We want to thank you, Juan, for coming in. We'll have you back again sometime, you and Sarah, and thanks for all you do for the community. We like to close in prayer, so before we officially, I always like to toss it to Mr. Zeke for a wonderful prayer.
Sure. Well, thank you. Thank you, Lord, so much for bringing us here together and have this amazing discussion with two amazing patriots here. I pray that you continue to give us the wisdom and the knowledge and the energy to fight for humanity, fight for the children. And I pray for Officer Hernandez's family, that his wife and his sons are at peace eventually, Lord, and please guide them through this rough time to their life. And I pray for the state of New Mexico, that we all come together and fight for peace in our streets, for a better future for our communities, Lord. Please bring us together, and we thank you for all the blessings that you've given us up until this day, Lord. In Jesus' name I pray.
Amen.
Amen to that. Nice job as always. So I guess another episode of the Chips and Salsa Show, New Mexico. I'm Alice Lara. Thank you, Juan Garcia with CCIA, Coalition of Conservatives in Action here in Las Cruces, New Mexico.
Thank you, guys. Zeke Rodriguez here signing out. Chips and Salsa New Mexico. Love you guys so much. Thank you for tuning in.
We love America.